Hello, 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 hello. How's everyone doing? Welcome to the final, and hopefully this one, I'm not going to mess it up. The final session of our full fledged, what do you call, component building workshop that we have been working on. Uh, I know last two times I have kind of, uh, messed it up towards the end. Something or the other goes amiss. And before in the part two of this session, I actually had managed to mess up Git. Okay. So I now realize I am very, very, very bad with UI. Okay. Now, for the purpose of this one, I am now going to do it manually. Okay. I ended up using the GitHub account of an old GitHub account, if I may. Okay. I ended up using an old GitHub account. And in this GitHub account, I have, uh, I'm going to add this particular project, and hopefully we'll have it up and running quickly. What have we completed till now? So we have basically completed the building of a component. We have added some configuration. We had added the clean install, build lib, build prod configs, and we had tested it out in local. And now we were waiting to push it to GitHub. And once we push it to GitHub, then we were going to publish it on npm. And once that gets done, then I think we are reaching kind of the end, except for one of the parts, actually two. One is testing and the second is DevOps pipeline. Okay. Now hopefully I'll be able to do all of that and just move ahead. I'm going to give it like a couple of seconds, let people join if someone is there and waiting to join or something, and then I am going to get started. Okay, so let's give it few more seconds, and then let's see. Other than that, if you have worked and sorry, other than that, if you have been working along, then you know where we have reached, what have we done, yada yada yada. And before leaving the last session, or maybe towards the end of the last session, we were talking about how you had to connect your GitHub with uh, Replit. Yeah, we were on that part. Okay. And the second part that we had done, and as I said, shouldn't have done that. Uh, we had clicked on this Git option, which opened something for us. And in that, mistakenly, I had committed a few config files which were not needed. But now I am double sure of what's needed, what's not needed. And yeah, I think we'll do it better this time. Hello, Roshan. Perfect. I think this is the perfect time to get started, actually. And now, what we had done, we had added the Git, and I had been able to mess up GitHub, not GitHub, my Replit Git. Okay, I had been able to mess that up, and then I created a new one and I copied over. But then, actually, towards the end of it, I realized, like when I was, trying to do a reset, there was a individual reset button, and the reset all actually said that if you want to reset, if you use reset, then it will undo all the unstaged files, but it will delete all the staged files, or one way or the other, basically. So that is why it created an issue. But now this time I am sure. Okay. I am sure what I want to do and what I don't want to do. So let me share that particular screen. So I have actually successfully pushed every change to GitHub, but for the purpose of this project, I am going to, wow, this is so weird. I just got a notification of MLH is now live. We have been live for like 6 minutes right now. uh, okay, for the purpose of this, I'm going to create a new repository, and we are going to go through all the steps again. So GHW dash components dash repo dash v2. Okay, this is the repository that I'm creating, and let's let it be public. And I'm going to click on create repository. Once that is done, then these were the options. Okay, if we have an existing repository, this is what we have to do. So I'm actually going to follow those steps. Also, again, for the purpose of this one, what do I have? Is there any commits that are in progress? Git status. The README has been modified. Okay, what has been modified in the README? Hmm. Once I find it, yep. Okay, this part has been modified, but actually I can just remove that. And now we reach back where we had started. Okay, perfect. Now the idea is that I am going to remove the .git folder. Once I remove the .git folder, we'll start fresh. Perfect. Now I have removed the .git folder. So we are going to start fresh. Hopefully I'm not going to mess it up this time. Second thing is, please make sure that you add these three files in the git ignore. Okay. I am going to paste them in chat. So these three things go into the .git ignore. Perfect. Now I am going to initialize Git repository. So once I initialize Git repository, it says using master as the name for initial branch, blah, 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 default branch. Uh, GitHub will handle it for us. So we don't need to think more about these hints. We can now do a Git status to actually first check. Yep, no commits and everything. Like these are the files that are going to be pushed to GitHub. Perfect. Now let's do a git add all. Should I do a git add all? Yeah, let's do a git add all. Okay. Now git commit dash m. Like normally, uh, you would give a very reasonable commit message. I'm going to give it as first component created. Okay. So that once that goes in, or kind of goes in, it is going to give you this error message that please tell me who you are, and like, yeah, or all those things. So we can just copy paste what they are saying. So git config global, and that goes in there. And please don't copy mine. Hopefully you won't. And actually, even if you do, that's fine, frankly, because the password is going to change every second. So it needs my email address and username. So when I'm giving it my user email, I'm going to take it away from screen. Okay. Interesting. Need to do this. And where did it go? Here. I'm going to move that away from the screen, quickly add the email address, and then I'll be back. Don't worry. But meanwhile, uh, would request you all to please add your email address. Okay, perfect. I am done. Now this will come back on the screen, and there it is. Okay. So, yep, these are the this is the next thing that I did. I added my what do you call it? The username. Yep. So I have added the email address and I've added the username, and these are the two things. Now I can do a clear and I can do the commit again. So git commit dash m added button component. So now if I do, the commits should be successful. Okay, and I should be able to commit everything. Now for pushing this, these are the steps that we need to do. We have an existing repository. So we are going to use that existing repository to push. This is where it is. So git remote add origin, uh, which basically translates to where do you want to push your code to. And the next one is git branch. Now this is the where you change the default branch name to main, and then git push dash u origin main. And now if we try to push, it will say permission denied. Okay, so yeah, this is the this is where we have reached. There's a permission denied. Now I'm going to wait for someone to say that okay, they have reached this stage or something, like supposed to reach till this stage. uh okay, perfect, done. To see the previous code, uh I think I can share this link, and then you should be able to see the previous code at least. But to see the whole thing, basically the videos of what we did, why we did, how we did, you can watch them on YouTube. Okay, so okay, one so if you have reached this stage, now let's go to the git option. Okay, the from the tools, go to git, and here there's this tiny settings where it says everything is fine. Okay, let's give it the repository it needs to access. Perfect. So once you click on that git option, you should be able to see, yeah, click on the settings and there it will say connect GitHub. And once you do that, then you should be hopefully able to push. Yes, finally. My God, this took, this was more frustrating to me. I don't know why. But yep, there we have it. Everything has been pushed successfully. Now I am going to add the next part just to show you that we can now do multiple pushes and everything will work fine as it is expected. So this goes in here and I can do a git add all git commit dash m updated readme, and then we can do a git push. That's it. Okay. Once you do that, you can go to GitHub, just quickly reload it and see. There we have the updated readme too. So again, I'm going to wait for a couple of seconds. Hopefully everyone has been able to push to GitHub. That is important. Again, to connect, so the steps that we followed, we did a git init in console, in the shell we did a git init. Once we completed the git init, we did git add, git commit. When we did git commit, it gave us an error saying please give your username and your user email. I gave it the username of my GitHub account and the user email of my GitHub account. Then we did the commit again, and then we did the push. When we tried to push, it said that, like, there's no access to this repository. So to get access to the repository, we went to tools, then we clicked on git, and there's this tiny settings icon. When we open the git, there's this tiny settings. We click there, you would see a button here saying connect your GitHub repository or something, and we clicked on that. It would open GitHub in a new tab. It will ask for your password, and then it will give access to Replit to push to that repository. Any questions, anyone, before we move ahead? Anyone? Anything? Nope. Okay, perfect. The next part. Now comes the next part. So we have pushed it to GitHub, which is nice, which is good. The next part is supposed to be pushing it to npm and then using our library, right? So to push it to npm, step one, we have to create an account on npm, of course. So this is the link, and I'm going to post it in chat. Okay, username, I'm going to give it utk09-ncl. Email address, sorry, I'm going to take it off screen again. So email address, password, I agree, and that's all you have to do. Okay, I don't think that's supposed to be very difficult right now. We have already done it once at least. So then click on that I agree option. You'll get a verify you are a human. Uh, yeah, verify you are a human captcha, recaptcha, whatever it's called. And for me, the recaptcha says pick one square that shows two identical objects. This is stressful again. Okay, one done. I'm one down. That's good. Pick one square that shows two identical objects. Oh, it's twice. I have to do it twice. Yeah. Okay, I am not a bot, at least not right now. And once you click on the create account, you will get a notification saying that please enter the one time password. That would be sent actually to your email address. So please enter the one time password that is sent to your email address. So yeah, go over to your email address, copy that one time password, and log in with that. And once you have logged in, this is where you would reach. So hopefully, again, once again, not very difficult, but hopefully everyone has created a npm account. Okay, and currently we have 0 packages there. So hopefully everyone has created npm account, and currently we have 0 packages. Any questions, anyone? Anyone? Anything? Hope again, uh, everyone has reached this stage, I'm assuming. All we had to do was create an account on npm. That's it. That's all we had to do. Okay, perfect. So okay, that's done. Now what's the next step? Now we have to publish our uh, library to npm. Now the steps to do that uh, are as follows, are going to be as follows. Number one, we have to do npm login. Okay, when you do npm login, it is going to ask for your username, it is going to ask for your password, and it is going to ask for your email. Now username is fine. I actually did it in front of you all. Password not fine, of course. So I'll try and hide that definitely. Okay. So username utk09-ncl. This is what I created. Password I have copied over and I pasted that. And email, this is public. Oh, it's supposed to be public. Okay, not going to risk it again. So sorry, it goes out of the screen. And I added my email address, and then it would send an OTP again to the registered email address. Okay. And once it does all that, you would get a notification saying logged in as whatever username, logged in successfully as XYZ username. Okay. So once again, anyone stuck at any part of that? So all we did was we added, like we did npm login and hit enter. It asked for our username, it asked for the password, it asked for the email address, and on the email address it sent an OTP. And once you add that OTP, everything should be fine. Okay, anyone stuck at any step? I keep asking that just to ensure that everyone has done. Excuse me. Done. Nice. Okay, the next step. The next step is, and I realized this the hard way actually. So if you remember, we have these two commands, right? We had a clean install where we ran a bunch of these commands to clear everything that exists and then install it again. And once that is done, then we also had this build lib command where we did npm run build, then pack it and add it. And when we did the add, okay, then it added it in our dependencies. Now this was fine and this is working locally. Like, let me assure you that it is working locally and it is working fine. The problem is that once you deploy this, let it reload. But the problem is that once you deploy it, okay, there is an issue. And what is the issue? Like, there comes an issue. And again, as I said, I realized this the hard way around. Like, once you package it and you publish it on npm, you have to remove this from the dependencies. Okay, you have to remove your library from dependency, otherwise you end up with a circular dependency. Like, you are building a library which is dependent on your library. And then it does get published. That's not the problem. The problem is not of getting or not getting published. The problem comes that it is when you install it in some other place or in an other project, it gives an error that this is a corrupted file. So that is why we first need to it, delete the testing, like the testing that we have done, or in a simpler manner, uninstall these components from the dependency, and then we have to publish it. Okay. Hopefully everyone followed along what like what I said or what I was trying to say. Any questions, anyone, about this? Okay. Seems like everything is fine. So we are we are going to again add a command. I love adding scripts. So the command would be like publish the lib, right? So publish the library would be our command. And what is supposed to happen? As I said, step number one, we have to uninstall the npm uninstall the GHW components test. So since I have already written it on the top, I'm going to copy paste it. So this is the first thing. So uninstall the dependency so that we don't end up in a circular dependency, of course. Second thing is that we don't want it to package, uh, extra stuff. Like actually, this wouldn't matter as such, but it's good to remove the node modules and package lock dot json from our project before we do a publish. And the final thing is we do a npm publish. So the publish command is just this much, npm publish. Okay, that's all that is there in the publish command. So now we are going to run this, but before running this, we know that we have made a change. What is the change that we made? We have made some updates here. So now we should also push those updates. So I'm going to do a git add and then git commit added. What did we add? We added publish lib script. Okay, and let's do a git push. And once that's done, now let's run the npm run publish lib. And let's see what errors do we get. And we'll see how do we resolve those errors. Okay, so step number one, it uninstalled it. Then step number two, it is now going to remove them. And step number three, forbidden. Okay, it is forbidden. Why is it forbidden? Oh, because I think, remember at the start of everything, I had told you that the library names are supposed to be unique. And of course, for the testing purpose, I have already published a library with this exact name. So I have to change it. But has anyone been successful? So I'm going to select all instances of it and I'm going to add a v2 there. Okay. So I have added v2 all at all the places. What else would I have to make change? Where I have to make change? Here. So here I am going to again add a dash v2. And where else would I need to make a change? Well, this folder would get generated automatically, auto magically, if I may. Very bad pun there. Uh, okay. I hope this should be fine, but just for the purpose of checking whether everything actually works fine or not, I'm going to run the publish build command first. sorry, build prod first. Npm run build prod. So the error is basically that when it tried to publish this, there already was this whole project. Okay, this project exists on npm.js, and I can show it to you, like the amount of times I tried to publish it. Like, look at this. Okay, 4 versions and everything. So I've already done it once at least, and that is why the name needs to change, and that is what I'm doing right now. I am changing the name. I just realized that I'll also have to change the CSS that is being imported here. Oh, I've actually commented it out, but this is supposed to be v2. That's what I wrote, right? V2. Meanwhile, anyone successful in pushing? Do let me know. Also, I'm assuming the two no's in the chat are from the previous question. Even the button import needs to be changed, right? Oh, yeah, right. So here it should become V2. Perfect. Thank you so much for that. So, okay, it's time to restart and reloading and optimize. And yep, that works perfectly fine right now. Let me check the package JSON here. So yep, there is a v2 there, and this is 1.0.5, and yep, that changed. Also, let me just reconfirm a bunch of things. If I remove this style, then I'm hoping that there's no style here. Yep, the style goes away. And if I uncomment this part and reload, then the style is back. Perfect. But if I, instead of cyan, I do rose 500, let's say, then that should not work. It should go back to the blue one, which was the default, because rose 500 was not exported. But instead, if I uncomment this, uncomment my main app.css, then yep, that works. Okay, instead of rose, let me use indigo. Yep, that works fine, perfectly fine. And yeah, okay. Thank God. And thank you so much. Okay, so let's go back. Trial and error. The amount of trial and error I've done this time. Okay, now let's try and do the publish. So npm run publish lib. So I'm going to do it again, and let's see. It removed the package, it created something, and publishing. Oh my God, my goodness, it tried to publish. So let's go and actually let's see on our npm. Let me reload, and there it is. There it is. Our package has actually been published. Okay, now I'm going to copy the install command, of course. And how do we test it? Like the simplest way to test this is to go to our home page. Okay, let's go to our home page. Let's go to templates, and we can create a completely new template, a brand new template. Let's call use template. We can call it test GHW lib ut npm. I mean, I'm just randomly writing things here. And then we can click on use template, and that should work. And okay, let me copy this again. And okay, let's see, this is here, that's fine. There's a package JSON, there's package log, there's node modules. Let me run this first. Let's see what is the output like. Okay, let's see what's the output like. Okay, so there's made with replit and there's this. Perfect. Let's go to shell and let's run the install command. Okay, npm I GHW components ut test v2. Okay, let's run it. Let's hope that there are no issues. Okay, it added one package. It audited 86, whatever that means. Let's see in package JSON. In package JSON, yep, it is in dependencies. Okay, it is in dependencies. So that basically means that if I do a import and not this, we exported what? We published button, right? From this, then okay, there's no error at least on importing. Now here I should try and get the button, and okay, so there is a button here, very small, and I can give it, let's say, hello. Okay, so the button exists and it is coming again from a component from a library that we have put on npm. And why is it not styled? Well, it's not styled because we have not added css, and this project, if you see, does not have tailwind installed, which is why there's no styling. But we know how to import the style. We know that here inside our project there is a dist folder, and inside the dist folder there is not these two things. There is actually, oh, also one way to see it is you go to the node modules and go to the GHW components. There's this and there's a style.css. So slash style.css. Let's wait. And okay, that looks horrendous. Why is it? Oh, yeah, because there's this default app.css. Don't want this. Perfect. Congratulations to all of us. Successfully added and deployed a library on NPM after so many mess ups. Congratulations to me, of course. Congratulations to all of you. Yeah, hooray! Yes, finally. Finally. You know that amazing feeling that it was messing up part one, messing up part two, but in part three, finally. Yep, yeah. Thank you so much. That means a lot. Okay, dokie. Now, anyone else who has reached this stage, do let me know. Would love to see, or if you could share your, if again there's a big if you are comfortable in sharing your component, that would be great. But not, if not, that's all fine. But this package is there. This package has been published. Perfect. Now, okay, this is coming here, which is nice. There's a code beta. Inside that you see the JS file, which is just impossible to read, of course. There has been one version, and yep, that's it. That's all. Perfect. Now, anyone stuck at any point? Anything? Any questions? More like, this is what I'm trying to ask. Any questions, anyone? I'm going to take the silence as golden. And I'm going to think that, okay, okay, so no questions, anyone, and everything has been fine, which is frankly I'm very happy to know that. Okay, now what's the next step? Now, I was supposed to do two things. One was the DevOps pipeline part, and the second part was the testing. Now, if we have time, then we'll go with the DevOps pipeline. Otherwise, frankly, it is easy. Okay, it is easy to set up that. but I'm going to give you hints. Of course, I'm going to give you hints, but maybe we'll have time to do it, maybe we won't have time to complete it. But testing is something that is very close to me right now, also because uh, I think that would be something very new. Okay, very new as part of my GHW streams. I've done so many, never done testing. So I think that would be a really good opportunity to, yeah, go through how to set up testing, how do you do testing, what does it actually mean, uh, how it works and all of that. But meanwhile, any like final thing, any questions, anyone? So Roshan, you lag behind. I can just give a quick overview of what we did actually. So, step number one that we did is we connected with our GitHub repository, right? We connected with our GitHub repository, uh, and we pushed our code to GitHub. Why was it necessary? You may ask, like, why was it necessary to push the code on GitHub? Can we not publish to NPM without pushing it to GitHub? I think you can, but I'm not sure because, yeah, I encountered some errors. So I thought it's good to push it on GitHub and then mess around with the code. So that's the first thing. The second thing was with respect to NPM. So we created an account on NPM. We did a npm login in the shell to give permissions to replit to push to our npm account. So we ran the command npm login. Once that was done, then we added this publish colon lib. So npm login was the first command, and the second command was this one, which we added as a script because we are developers and we are smart. So these are the two things that we did majorly. One was the npm login, and then second was the publish lib script. And we also ensure, now this is for anyone who's going to watch this later and try to build it, please give a unique name to the library. Okay, I cannot stress enough on this. And you saw what happened when I tried to give it the same name as I had previously published. Okay, just gave an error. So try to give it a unique name. You can have like GHW components, but have your own initials. And instead of test, you can have, let's say, day like Monday or Tuesday or what. Basically, try to give it be make it unique, and just test everything before you push it or publish it. Like before you bundle it and publish it. Uh, Before publishing, the important aspect is to delete it from your dependencies or dev dependencies wherever you have installed it. Delete it from there and then you do the publish. Otherwise you will end up in a circular dependency, like my library dependent on my library. Why am I saying the dependent part? uh, as you can see right now, it says that these are the dev dependencies that my library has, and there's no dependency for my project. Okay. uh yeah, I think that's mostly it. One more thing before we actually move on to the testing. And for testing we'll use vtest and maybe react testing library. Yeah, the second thing that I wanted to point out is peer dependencies. So we have seen, uh, what have we seen? We have seen dependencies. So dependencies are the libraries that my project depends on. Like without those libraries, my project is nothing. Okay, you can think of those libraries as dependencies. So without, like react and react dom right now, these should be the dependencies, but for the purpose of this project it's actually inside dev dependency, which is okay right now. But dependencies are the libraries on without which my project is nothing. Then we have the dev dependencies. These are the libraries that are important for my project in my, like, kind of local environment. Okay, it does not need to be published with the library itself. Okay, no one needs, let's say, types react or types react dom uh, for Joffrey. I'll come to that. So yeah, no one. What was I talking about? Yeah, like people don't need this for the library to work. Okay, it's more or less for your development environment. But there's the third thing, which is called as peer dependencies. Now, peer dependencies is basically a way to force the user to install certain packages without which this library or this, yeah, the component library that we have published will not work. Now, our project actually worked here. Like, it was, we were able to install it in a separate test environment where we had pushed. We were able to install it and use it because this project again used React and React DOM. And remember, on day one I was saying that people need to have React and React DOM to use our project. But if someone tries to use this in a Vue.js environment or AngularJS environment, this library would not work. And how do we force people or users to install React and React DOM or use it only for in these environments? We add these libraries as peer dependency. Okay, so you do a peer dependencies. Hopefully the spelling is right. Yep, and it needs to be in double inverted, of course. uh this goes in, come on, come on, come on. Yep, that is it. So inside peer dependencies I add these two things, which basically tells the user to ensure that they have React and React DOM installed. Okay, now I'm going to just quickly beautify it. Format of, okay, what did I do? Take it, complete thing, go back here, paste it here, format of beautify, yep, there it is. Copy it from here, come back here, paste it here. Okay, so by adding peer dependencies, you are forcing the user to ensure that they have these libraries installed. Okay, now after adding that, something messed up. Very simple way to solve it is run all our commands that we have, especially the build prod. That will uninstall stuff, install stuff, and all those things will happen. And meanwhile, I'm going to answer a very good question that has been asked. I saw something like vulnerability when installing the component with npm. What does it mean? So when we had installed it, there was this vulnerability. So, and it also gives you this suggestion of npm audit for details. So let's do that, npm audit. So once you run that npm audit, it will tell you that there are these problems. Number one is semver less than 7.5.2, but semver is not a direct dependency. Okay, who is using it? Babel core is using semver internally, and semver has some issue. So we can fix it. We can fix that vulnerability or the security issue. You can think of it as a security issue, but out of the scope of our today's session, maybe sometime in future I'll definitely going to uh, put it in stream, use it in stream. And the second vulnerability or the second security issue is in vite itself. So in vite, between versions 4.1.0 and 4.1.4, there is a severity high where there is this particular problem. I remember showing it on part one, but let's go over it again very quickly. So there is this problem in vite versions where if a person wants to access, let's say, .env file, which is supposed to be a secret file, and they do a, like, whatever is the local host slash .env, it will say restricted. But if they do a double slash, you can actually see the secret file. So to that issue was resolved in versions, in later versions. And I also keep talking about this very good website called as Sneak, where you can check which versions have issues. The latest version 4.4.2 does not have any direct vulnerabilities or direct security issues, but see, these versions had them. Okay, so we can update our vite version to be whatever version that they have said there does not have the issue. So just do that and that's it. And now you can do a, in a good way is to first delete your package lock. Okay, just delete the package lock and delete the node modules folder, and then do a npm install. And hopefully towards the end of it, it will say like, no more security issues. Or I mean, the one security issue should be solved. So out of 4 vulnerabilities, 3 moderate, 1 high, we should now end up with just 3 moderate. Oh, apparently 0. I think Babel core and everyone fixed their, yep, we end up with 0, which is really nice. Wow, I did not expect this, but I hope that was helpful, Geoffrey. Welcome. Let's go back and okay. So everything was fine and everything has been done properly. And yep, everything is still working. What were we going to do? Yeah, we were adding the peer dependencies. Now that we have added peer dependencies, let's try and publish. Okay, let's try and publish this. So to publish it, we run the script that we wrote. But before I run that, there is going to be an error which I want to show it to you before I delete node modules and everything. So if I try to do npm publish now, okay, I have not changed anything else. So if I do try to do a publish right now, it will say you cannot publish over a previously published version. So as you can see, and again, you remember from part 1, part 2, we were talking about how we have to update the version before we can actually publish it, right? So before we can publish the whole thing, we have to update the version number. So multiple ways to do it, of course. Way number one is you just always go to your package JSON and update the version number there. Simple, easy enough. There's also a command, I think npm version. If you run that, then it will I think it's called npm version only. Yep. So yes, it's called npm version and you can read all about it right here. uh, yeah, npm version, bump up package version. So you can run that particular command to bump up the package version number, which is again really good. So yeah, those are the things that you could do. Like these are two things. npm version also can take the major, minor, patch, pre-major, pre-minor, pre-patch, pre-release, blah blah blah. So what is this major, minor, patch? So again, we have used it, this version 1.0.6. Okay, this follows the semver. Semver is a guideline, and you can read all about semver on, why do I keep doing that? Sorry. So you can read all about semver on the semver.org website. Okay, where they say major version, like when should you make those numbers, or why those numbers should not be used randomly as per our own will, and yeah, stuff like, yeah, our own will. It should be used or follow a particular guideline. You make a major version change when you make incompatible API changes, minor version when you add a functionality that is backward compatible, and patch when you make a backward compatible bug fix. So in our case, 1 is the major, 0 is the minor, and 6 is the patch. Okay, so we are actually following the semver guidelines already. So yeah, with that in mind, now let me first do a git status. We have changed the package JSON, we changed the package lock, we made a change in app.jsx. Did we? What did we change? Yeah, we changed a bunch of stuff there, and we made changes in vite config. Oh, so this is from the previous one. So let me add and push everything, and then we can again run the publish command with the new app version, that is 1.0.6. So git add, git commit dash m, updated, update v1.0.6. That goes in. Now let me do a git push. There's also a really good thing, which is if you should have sent this in chat. Let me quickly send these two things in chat. So that's the Semver link, and there's this npm link, and there is also a way that you can use the git tag version to give it the like the same number as your commit. What are git tags? uh, think of git tags as your normal hashtag. Okay, the worst example that I can give right now, but that's the only thing I remember. So think of git tags as your hashtags, and your hashtags will have the numbering in form of, you can say, semver numbering, and that you can see actually on GitHub when you give a git tag. And yeah, you can use the same tag that you give on GitHub to publish to the npm. Okay, so that has been pushed. Now what was our command for publish? That is publish lib. So I can do npm run publish lib, and let us, like, that should publish it. Okay, meanwhile, once again, any questions, anyone, to understand? Okay, so it has published. Let's go to npm. Where is it? Yep, there it is. And if I do a quick reload, now we have 1.0.6. Okay, and if I go to our test location, let me first uninstall the previous one. So npm uninstall GHW dash components dash ut dash test dash v2. Why am I uninstalling it? Just to show you, like, what breaks, what doesn't break, and everything. Okay, so it's not able to find that module, of course. Now I can paste the install command. So I ran that, and that should create the new version is here, 1.0.6. And now if I do okay, I have to stop and start because I've installed a library, and it should work fine. I hope that was interesting to everyone. Now, before we move on to a quick break, I would actually like to install a bunch of libraries that would be useful to us for the testing, like writing unit tests for our component. Okay, so oops, I was like, where did all my files go? Okay, perfect. So there they are. And I think I have a lot of things open right here. So I'm going to close a couple of those. What is this? What is this? Same thing. Sorry. Uh, this was testing. Okay, I think that should be good enough. So, what are we going to use? We are going to use vtest. It is a unit testing framework. Okay, and we can run again. We'll follow the documentation for most of the things, or actually, maybe not, because I have done this recently, so I know. So we can do the npm install dash d vtest to install it. Then we have to do some configuration. It is saying that do the like create a new vtest config and do it, but we can actually add the config in our vite config itself. Now, two different and separate things. Okay, there's a vite config, there's a vtest config, and we are going to use vtest framework to add the whole configuration to vite. So that we have to do to run the test. We add a script called test which uses vtest library to run it. And what else is there? It has an integration with react testing library, which is what we are also going to use. Why are we going to use the react testing library? Well, the name says it all. It is a testing library for, like, very tightly integrated with react. But you can use it not just for react, you can use it for anything. Okay, it's called as testing library. But in that testing library they also have a react version. Okay, explicitly you can say an explicit react version, and you can install it by doing this. So we will use that. And why this? Because it's a very lightweight solution for testing react components, and it provides light utility functions on top of react dom and react dom test utils, blah blah blah. The idea is I like it, and I think you will too. Okay, so let's install them. I'll clear everything that I have here, and now I am going to run few commands. So command number one is vtest, okay, which comes from the vite. Where is vite? Yeah, there it is. So from the vite one, sorry, vtest one. So npm install dash d. So dash d, if you remember, is for our dev dependency. So I can just copy paste that and hit enter. Let it install. Meanwhile, let me just close a couple of folders here. Remove. Yep. Oops. I just realized we had deleted the node modules and we had deleted package lock. I think I should do a npm install to run all those. Also, once you publish your package on npm, you will get an email saying version number this published, then version number this published, then version number this published, and all those things. Okay, let me do a npm install. Why am I doing this? Because if you remember, when I ran the publish lib command, I uninstalled and deleted a bunch of things. Okay, so that is why I'm doing the npm install command, uh, just to ensure that everything has been installed successfully and properly. Okay, vtest has been added. What's the next step? Let's go back here. So it says to create a config. We are not going to bother with that, at least right now, but we have to add a script of test. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to copy that line, and for coverage of what, okay, we can see what coverage means. Or let me actually copy these two. Okay. Okay, let's copy both of them. Okay, let's copy the test command and the coverage command. Let's come back to our package JSON, and after the published lib I'm going to put a comma there and paste these two things. Any questions, anyone? Anything confused about something? I'm going to copy this, go over to the JSON formatter, add it there, beautify it, copy it from there, come back here and paste it here. Why did I just do that? Uh, just to have like properly formatting, properly formatted thing. Okay, so we have added the test to be vtest and coverage command. What does coverage command do? We'll see it later. Then we have to also add the React testing library. Now to add React testing library, I okay, there's we also should add the jest DOM or JS DOM. So what is JS DOM? So JS DOM, you can think of it as a JavaScript implementation. Okay, let me quickly add it here. Come on, man. Okay, so this is JS DOM, and what is it supposed to do? It is supposed to be a JavaScript implementation for various web standards for use with Node.js. Okay, or you can just think of it as what all libraries or internal functions are supported by Node can be used in the browser if you install this particular library. Okay, so we are going to do that. You can think of this again as a setup which is inevitable. So npm install dash djs dom. So let me copy and paste this over in the chat. So npm install dash djs dom. And what's the so yeah, we got the node functionalities in the browser. Okay, so what's the next step? The next step is to add yeah, this one, npm install so testing library slash react, and we also need to add testing library slash jest dom. I know, lots of them, right? So I'm going to add it here, npm install testing library slash react. And again, this will be a dev dependency. My library does not depend on this project as such, like this library as such. My library, yeah, GHW library does not depend on this, but this is necessary for local development. You can think of it that way. Okay, for testing and everything. So npm install dash d testing library slash react, and at the rate testing dash library slash jest hyphen dom. Uh, Once again, let me just copy this over and let me share it with you all. Okay, perfect. So we have added jest JS DOM, and oh, there's also an alternative for JS DOM. It's called, I think, as Happy DOM. So maybe you can have a look at that. JS DOM, some people say that it's very heavy. So Happy DOM is kind of an alternative to it. Mm. Okay, so we have added that. We have added the testing libraries React, and we have added the testing library slash jest hyphen DOM. And okay, now we need to configure the vite config. So let's go to our vite configuration, and below the plugins, okay, or actually below the server host, like server and host, we need to create a test configuration. So test, and here we define step number one. We define what is the environment supposed to be. So the environment is supposed to mimic the Node.js environment, and to mimic it, we have used this library JS DOM. So that's the first thing. Second thing would be uh, globals. So are we allowing global import, global export? I'm going to put it as true. And third thing it needs is setup files. Okay. Now, what is this setup file and where is this setup file? So setup file is something that we have to manually create. And why do we need to create that setup file? So we need to add it because we want to extend the configuration of vtest and give also provide the configuration of react testing library to vtest. Okay, so we have two testing libraries right now and we want to extend the properties of react testing library so that it can be used by vtest, or you can think of it as vice versa. So we have to create that conf setup. Now where do we create it? Now there are multiple places where you can write your tests. You can write it inside the components folder. Okay, so there's a button.jsx file, and similarly you can add a button.test.jsx file. Okay, so we can write our tests where we have our components, but uh, I think it's not necessary because our components are going to be bundled, or you can say zipped, and that is what is going to be published on npm. And testing, as I said, is more of for our local development, so we don't need to bundle it with the components, right? So I can create it outside of components folder. So I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to give it underscore underscore tests underscore underscore I underscore underscore. I think it's, you can think of it as a convention. Okay, some people try and uh, separate it. Now, inside this folder, I am going to create a setup.js file. And inside this setup.js file, I am going to add like first import a bunch of stuff. So there is import expect and after each. Again, think of it as inevitable, like this setup needs to be there and it is default or fundamentally similar across the board. So you don't really need to know this, you can just copy it from some setup file. Like if you google setup for vtest and react testing library, you will find it definitely. So we need expect and after each. We also need add, like from add testing dash library slash react, like cleanup. What is a cleanup? So after each test has finished running, so once we start writing a bunch of tests, we are going to run the test, and after the test has finished running, we want to clear up the dom. So that's why this. And the third thing is matchers. Now this is kind of, again, well, everything is important here, but matchers is what gives v test. Okay? It no sorry it gives the ability to testing library, the react testing library, to extend the vtest expect method. Okay, vtest has an expect and matchers is used to extend, like we extend the expect method with matchers. And where does it come from? It is actually a part of testing dash library slash jest dash dom that we had added slash matchers. Okay, now to extend it, we do a expect dot extend matchers. Okay, this is one line. And the next line is the after each that we have imported. So I can write after each, please run this particular function where you do a cleanup. Okay, and I'm going to copy it over in Prettier so that it is nicely formatted. Okay, so this is what I've done. Again, you can think of it as a default setting or something which, what do I say? Something which is as expected, or be it's going to be there. Okay, you definitely don't need to add any bells and whistles around it. Okay, so I have sent it over in the chat, and yeah, I think that's it. So we have added the setup file, but now we also have to go over. Oh yeah, in our app JSX, now that we have deleted it, it's not going to exist anymore. So let me, let me. Okay, we can fix it later. Sorry. So in the setup files, now where is our setup files? So we are currently in the root, right? So in the root, from root, we want to go inside the source folder. Okay. So dot, oops, dot slash src slash what do we have, underscore underscore tests underscore underscore not plus plus, underscore underscore slash setup dot js file. This is where our setup files are located. Now I think this is okay. Let's also resolve this particular error that is happening. It is basically saying that it cannot find uh, the package, the GHW components UT test v2 package, because we had deleted it before we pushed our code. So I am going to do build prod, run this command npm run build prod, just so that it does not give me that error. Meanwhile, hopefully everyone has reached this stage. So I'm also going to share this test thing in the chat, and I'm going to open and keep the setup tests. So if you have, like, if you have missed something out there, I think this is the perfect time to add that, the amount of things that I have open. Okay, I'm also going to keep the setup files open, so you can just quickly copy paste it. And let's take a break. Let's take a quick 5-minute break, and we'll be back after the break. Any questions, anyone, before we go on the break? Doesn't seem to be any. That's nice. Yep, everything's working fine. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be back. Thank you. Hello, 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 and I'm back. Move this music. Hopefully, everyone has set up the tests, okay, or the has completed the setup test. Let me remove this ticker. I'm back, and yep, hopefully everyone had a nice break. Definitely. And now moving on. So what have we done till now? We have added the setup file. We have added it in vite config, and that's it. Before we move on, we'll wait for 5 seconds. Anyone, any questions? Nope. Perfect. Cool. So what's the next step? So the next step is to actually write the tests. So how do we write tests? Now, I feel it's as simple as creating a component. Okay, writing tests is not supposed to be difficult. It should be as simple as creating a component. So we have created a component, let's say, of button, right? So we have created a button.jsx component, and we have to write the test for this one, and it should be really, really, really simple. So what are the changes that we are supposed to do? So let me add a folder. Now, multiple people, like different people, have different way of writing. Some people would, as I said, would do it in the same folder. Some people would, create a separate folder somewhere and do it, which is what I'm doing. And inside that, they will add all the tests. So inside underscore underscore test, they'll add everything. I think one good, again, personal, okay, personal interpretation, but I think that it's a good way to simulate what we have as the different, like how the folder is structured. In the same way, we should simulate the test folder structure. So the components folder has button.jsx and class name util.js and index.js and tailwind.css. So there's the root folder and there's the components folder inside it. So similarly, the test is my root folder and there's a components folder inside it. And inside that, I can write the button.j dot test dot jsx. Okay, this is very important. The word test. By adding that word test, we are telling vtest to find all the files that have the word like dot test dot something, or I think even dot spec, spec dot jsx will also work. So if a file has those two names, then it will automatically understand that these are the files that I have to run as a part of my test. So how do we write test? What do we write in the test? Yeah, let's go over that. So a test is supposed to be very simple, frankly. uh, First, import. What do we import? We import, actually, you know what? I'm going to write it the other way. So to test something, you add a test like this, and then inside that, you give it a description of what is this test supposed to do. Okay. So test, and it is supposed to render the button and trigger the on click event. So this is the name of the test, or a description, a very short and meaningful description of what this test is supposed to do. So let's start with that. Then we create a empty, let's say, arrow function. Again, standard. You create a empty arrow function. Now, step one is, if you remember button.jsx, which I think I should open, in the button.jsx, we had an on click, which was a event. Okay, on click was an event. So when we ran the on click, we were telling the we were telling the element, the component, to trigger or run very similar to how on click would run, right? So that was what we were doing with the on click event. Now here we are supposed to mock that event. So to mock the mouse click, we can do const, we can create a variable, and we have to mock it. So to mock it, we use vite, like vi, which comes from vite. So vi.fn tells is a function which mocks this variable. So we have to first import v test. Yeah, this is why I'm doing it the other way, so that you get an idea of why we are importing certain things. So import v from vtest. So what is this doing? This is supposed to mock on click event, or handler, you can also say. So once this is out of the way, what's the next thing? Now we want to render, like the test description says it, render the button. So when we say render the button, we kind of mean that on screen, or simulate on screen, and see if we can, yeah, if we can see it on a mock screen, which will not be visible to us. So we call the render function, and inside the render function, we do a button, and our button is supposed to have a on click. Okay, and on click, this on click is basically this on click. Okay, the variable, and the value is going to be this variable that we created. So on click, you do this, and once we close it, then we also close the button. Perfect. Now our button can take like this children components, or whatever we write it here. So I'm going to call this as GHW. Okay, I think this one GHW is enough. So render. So where is this render coming from? So render is going to come from React testing library. So from @testing dash library slash react. So render means simulating it very similar to what we see on the screen. You can think of it that ways. So that's done. Now we write the test for it. So like think of, whenever you're writing a test, think visually. So we have first rendered the component, or we are now seeing it on the screen. What's the next step supposed to be? The next step is the seeing part, or maybe you can think of it as finding that button on screen, right? We are trying to find that button on screen. So that should be very simple to understand. To find the button on screen, we can create a variable here. Let's call it button element, button el. And on the screen, okay, from screen, where screen is again a function which is supposed to be imported from testing library. So on the screen, get by role. So get by role, what is get by role? So if I go here and if I try to search get by role, so get, okay, which query should I use? uh, get by role, can I find it? Yep, by aria role. Okay, what is by aria role? If you remember, our button element is an interactive element, and it is a default HTML element. Okay, so you can do a multiple, like you can do multiple things, but if it is a default element, okay, example, button is a default element, but card is not a default HTML element. You create a card, image, figure, these are default HTML elements. but let's say nav bar, that is not a default HTML element. So easiest way, again, as they say, where was the get by role? Yeah, find by the aria role. So you can again think of it as, if it's a default HTML element, you can use the get by role. So that's why I'm using get by role. And what am I searching for? A very simple HTML button, right? So that's what I'm going to search for. And in that, I can say that in the button, there will be uh, a text, right? The button is supposed to have a text, and that text is going to be, now I'm going to use some regex here. I'm going to say that it should have a text similar to this. So get by role tells it to get the element of button, and which button? The normal HTML button. And it will have the name of the button, or the text between the button will be GHW. Okay, so I think, yep. And now we can say, please expect. So when we say expect, we are doing an assertion of truth, truthy, or truthfulness. Like, expect this button el dot to be in the document. So this is the actual testing confirmation part of it. So expect this button element that we have just created to be in the document. Let me see if I can find this. So there's a not to be in the document. The just dom utility provides the to be in the document matcher, which can be used to assert that an element is in the body of a document or not. Okay, so that is why we are using the to be in document. Now we have done everything, but we actually have not imported our button itself. So we need to import that. So import uh, button. Now I can import it from my library, but that's not what we want. We want to import it from local. Okay, so from a dot slash will take me out of this directory. Then I do again a dot slash. I should be out of test directory. And once I'm out of test directory, I can go inside the components folder, okay, which is here. And inside that, I can call the button. Okay, I think, yep, this ideally should work, but let's see. So we can go to the shell. Let me clear everything that was there. And if I just do npm run test, let's pray to God that this works and I'm able to run it. Meanwhile, while it is trying to run and give me maybe errors, oh, it passed. Wow. Yeah, seriously, disbelief right now. I did not expect it to pass, at least in the first go, based on what has been happening since last two sessions. But yeah, any questions, anyone, till now, to understand like how we write tests, what we write, where we write, why we write? I don't think I'll be able to answer why we write, but let's say I'll be able to answer how to write. Any questions? No? Perfect. So it says waiting for file changes. I'm going to quit it, to like press Q to quit. So I have quit that. So we have added one test, or in that test, we basically simulated the on click function, right? Not on click, actually. We have simulated the button being present. We still have to do the on click, the click event. So for the click event, we can simulate a click event by using the fire event. Okay, where is this fire event coming from? let's go back to React testing library. Let me see if I can find it. Yep. Fire event. Yes, firing events. Fire DOM events. Fire event convenience methods for firing DOM events. What are DOM events? Clicking on something is a DOM event. Typing somewhere something is a DOM event. Pressing escape is a DOM event. So like different DOM events. And let's say here, mouse event of click. You can think of that as the fire event. So we are going to use fire event, and what we want to do, we want to do the click. Okay, where do we want to click? On what do we want to click? We want to click on this button element that we have created, and that's why we should have variables, right? It makes it easy. Otherwise we would write this whole thing inside this, and then this whole thing inside, yeah, whatever. So fire event, where is fire event exported from? Well, of course, wherever we just saw it, we saw it inside the testing library. So this part is to simulate a click event on the button. So this simulates the click event. And again, where do we actually do the assertion? Like this is the assertion, right? Assertion. We are asserting or confirming its truthiness. So similarly, we can do a expect. What does it expect? What should it expect? You see this on click that we wrote, that was mocking something. So expect like this on click to have been called. Okay. Again, let me check if I can find it in testing library. Okay, to have been called is not there, but to have been called is a way of confirming that someone clicked on this, and that variable was, or simulating that event, particular event, that on click event had happened. So now we have two things. So let's see if we run the npm run test, everything works fine. Yep, everything works perfectly fine. So now we have checked that the name exists, we have checked that the event has been called. But if you see, you like if you like focus on this, you will find that, hey, wait a second, this is going to become big and big and big and bigger and bigger. So there's also another way to write this whole test. We can actually simply what I'm trying to say is we can divide it into two tests. How do we divide it into two tests? We can add a describe. Okay, describe outside of it, where we take this whole thing, add it to the description, then we again do a empty arrow function, and we do this. Now here from the test part, I'm going to cut this whole thing and add it here. Okay, like just follow along. I can, since I'm using this variable twice, I'm going to take it out from here. And yep, I think that should be good enough. What else am I going to use twice? I'm also, no, render, we should use it as required. Now I'm going to actually copy paste this whole thing below. The first stop is the render the button, so it doesn't do the on click thing. The second part is trigger the on click event. Now what are the change, like what are the things that are not needed on the top test? The top test does not need these two lines, right? The bottom test renders the button, then okay, does not need these two lines actually. It just needs a fire event and expect it to have been called. Hopefully the copying pasting, I did not mess it up. Let me just put it on prettier, prettify it, get it back here, paste it, and let me run the test again. Let me clear this and npm run test. Again, it's more or less of, hopefully I did not mess it up by copying pasting wrong things at wrong places, more like. Okay, one failed. What failed? Yeah, told you. Oh yeah, the button element. So the I deleted the button element, it seems. uh oh yeah, it's trying to fire this event, but this does not exist. So yeah, this needs to be here. Okay, so I have made that change. Now let's see. Yep. So now we have one test files and it has two tests, right? Hopefully that was understandable. Any questions, anyone? Like, I divided it into two tests and it was helpful. Why? Because once you divide it into small and small and small tests, not very small but small tests, help you focus on one functionality at a time. Okay, so again, I hope that was helpful and understandable. We also added another uh, command, which was this coverage command. So let's try and run that. Npm run coverage and see what does it give us and what are the changes. Okay, it says that the default coverage provider has changed from C8 to V8. New package is required to install to use the old. Do you want to install? Okay, it asks me, so that's good. And let it get installed. So it's for coverage. Coverage, you can think of coverage as a way to see how much testing have you done on your components. So I think it should give you a nice little table. Yeah, there it is. So it is telling me that okay, all the tests have passed, and this is the coverage report on all files. The percentage of coverage, 89% of the lines have been covered, and in the on dot, but I'm guessing on is from button. Let me see if I can Red, oops, reduce the size of this whole thing to see better names. But yeah, you get an idea. So on button.jsx, the coverage is 100%. But on this til.js, I'm assuming that would be the class name util. Yep, I don't really have any coverage. And all these things, like all of these things do mean something or the other. From the top of my head, I remember like percentage branch means branching out from the test. So you don't only cover the positive aspects, you also cover the negative aspects. So you can think of it as two branches, the positive aspect and the negative aspect. So on that, for button, I am covering 100. Like, there's only one aspect you can think of it as. And class names, again, there's only one aspect, so that is why the branch is 100%. Percent funcs, I am assuming that should be functions. Percent lines, like which line, like how many lines of code has been covered in test. So for button it's 100%, for class names is 33.33%. Why is class name util, which we have not written any test, still has 33% coverage? Would anyone want to take a guess? Okay. Okay. So it has only 33% coverage, or it does have 33% coverage, because it is being used inside button. And I'm assuming in some way or the other, uh, you know, through button testing, it has come into the number of lines of coverage. But it does point out which lines of the test are, like which lines of the component is not being covered in the tests. It says line 2 and 3, like 2 to 3 is not being covered. So just very weird graphical outcome of the coverage. Again, I hope that was helpful. Finally, once again, any questions, anyone? Okay. Okay, doke. No questions. Everyone's happy with this. Everyone understood everything, which is nice, frankly. Uh, what am I going to do next? I'm going to push this once again now that we have added a coverage. I had also prepared a different component while I was setting this up. I don't think I have time to go through it line by line, but I'm going to try and show it to you. So this is a card component. Uh, Now, this card component, what is it supposed to look like? So let's do a bunch of things. Number one is import React from React, since we are setting up a component. Uh, in the component, I want to use the import button, the button component that we have created. I want to use that inside this card. Okay, import button from button. I also want to use the import class names util from dot slash class names util util. Okay, so these are the things that I'm going to use. Let's first create a const card equals to empty and this, and let's add a return here which is empty, and we can do a export default and what card. Yeah. Okay, and let's also import it in the app.jsx. So I'm going to call it custom card from dot slash component slash card. Okay, so there shouldn't be anything visually, at least right now. Now let's add something here. So it is supposed to have a div, and inside the div I am going to add another div actually. Why? Let's see. So in this second div, I'm going to give it a class name equals to what is it supposed to have? I'm going to use the class name util. I don't know if I have used it in this one. So I imported it, but I haven't used it actually. Okay, let me show you how you would use it. So it does the same thing as we have done here. Okay, it does the exact same thing as we have done here, just in a nicer format. So you call the class names util here, and inside this you give it the default. So like on hover, I want this to have background of blue of, let's say, 900, and it should be rounded dash large, and it should have a shadow dash large. Okay, I yep, that should be it. Let me also see the time. Okay, we have very less time. So actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy paste. Yeah, we have just 3 minutes. I don't want to take over someone else's stream right now. So I'm going to copy paste it. But what we have here, there's an options which takes the title, text, button class name, image source, image alt, class name, and all those things. And they are being added here at the bottom. It takes other props, the rest of the props. Then we have the class names util and everything. And if we go to our app.jsx, so what we are going to do is we are going to call this particular component, the card component. Okay, we are going to call that custom card, or it's called what, custom card, right? Yeah, custom card. And we are going to call it in this section. And now custom card, it has to take these options which you will see right here. Cannot destructure property of options as it is undefined, so we need to give it options, right? So let's call it as card options. And here in custom card, we can say it is basically equal to the options equals to ups, not this card options. So if we do that, this is the card that we get. I know, not very pretty looking, but it is something. So now this is how you can create a card. And once you have, if when you want to export it and you add it as a library, you can add it as card from dot slash card. And then you do all the build and run and test and then publish. Okay. So, with that, we come to an end of our session. Thankfully, this time I'm on time, which is great. Any questions? Any like final call? Any questions, anyone? Hopefully, you learned a lot from this. Definitely, I did. Of course, I learned how you have to be expecting of any issues that can happen. But other than that, I hope it was enjoyable. See you in the next GHW. Thank you so much. Bye bye.